Hello everybody, this is Snarist, and welcome back to my Dead Space 2 Hardcore Difficulty walkthrough. And this is the second part, and it's my second save. And this footage will only go on for a little bit less time than the last one. Thankfully, just gonna be a little mic test. Yep, still working good. Alright, sorry about that. Yep, so this is the beginning of chapter 10 pretty much, just a little bit after it. And my entire walkthrough for this second save is just going to be on this one chapter and the first couple of encounters in chapter 11, because there's one particular encounter in chapter 11 that is very frustrating to deal with, and there's one more near the end of chapter 11 which can be a rather difficult fight if you're not careful enough. And see, I was already punching the door because I'm wondering what the hell's going on here. I just had to back up a little bit and try again, but I was very pissed off at this moment because I ended up getting killed in chapter 11 over some bullshit, and so I had to do this whole chapter again. But thankfully I'm pretty sure I did this chapter much better. So right here there's a brute hiding behind these boxes. To save yourself falling over in that little animation but you don't get hurt regardless anyway, let it charge you so its arms are more vulnerable and just start tearing into it. I think it's crazy how you can slow down a brute like this and tear off its whole arm while you're in stasis. Yet, the moment you hurt it enough, it'll suddenly just like spasm out and just move at normal speeds just for a little bit and completely throw off your aim. But yeah, if you take off one arm and you're close enough, he'll either try to swipe you or throw one of those bombs at you. There's a bunch of lights right ahead that are aiming in your direction. When you get near the first one, you'll get a brute that spawns in and it'll charge towards you. You just need to deal with it the same way, but there's a stasis canister here, so you can go ahead and use that if you want. And then when you do kill this brute, there'll be necromorphs that come from behind you and in front of you. I believe if you push up far enough, it'll spawn necromorphs in front of you and a little bit further on as well. So the best thing to do probably is to just look behind you, make sure there's no necromorphs following you, and if there is, go back there and take them all out and just get back to the entrance. And then by the time you look behind you, you'll probably be able to catch them off guard as they've got a long distance to cover to get to you. But I'm just going to move on ahead anyway. And if you saw that before, I'm pretty sure I shot the projectiles. Because he tried to shoot a projectile before. I'm pretty sure I shot it as it came out of its mouth and must have done some damage to him. And I'm trying to recharge on the stasis thing and it doesn't work. But it finally did with a bit more effort. And no matter how many times I come down here, I always assume there's a couple of doors here that are a secret notebook door, but they're not. And I threw a light at that slasher, just caught his arm, very lucky. So thankfully, at least the one benefit to starting this chapter again is that you're going to see a much cleaner run than I got last time. And that's really what it's about, isn't it? You play the game a couple of times to get familiar with it, you figure out how the enemies work, you figure out how to fight them, you know when not to be aggressive, and you push on ahead. And speaking of which, there's going to be a few instances where I'll need to talk about the nature of what this chapter holds and certain encounters you can defeat and pretty easily, because you're going to need to. I mean, after all, if you've saved at chapter 10, good for you. You're not going to have too much of a struggle for the rest of the game. But if you saved at chapter 7, then I'd recommend saving here as well and making this your second save. Possibly saving your third save for chapter 13, let's say, or maybe near the end of chapter 11. And so you'll suffer a bit of a run back, but it could be a lot worse. You just need to get comfortable with the idea that having a half an hour to an hour long run back is just going to have to be normal. So I'm also going to carry on talking about the topics that I have written down here on my laptop in front of me. And I decided that instead of playing Code Vein 2 right now, I'm going to just get out the last of the commentaries for these. Then I'm going to make sure that the audio quality is fine, and I'm going to put them on the videos and I'm going to get them exported. And while this will take quite a bit of time, and I'm only going to have a little bit of time to play Code Vein 2, at least then I'll pretty much be done with all my commentaries except for the S-Rank Master Ninja walkthrough of Ninja Gaiden 4. But to be perfectly honest, I'm probably only going to make a discussion, since there's no intro in those videos. I'm probably going to end up just sorry, I lost my train of thought there. I'm probably just going to talk about what it's like at the beginning and then just sort of play music over the rest of it. But at the same time, I'm proud enough to have already done it, but it's just not necessary because not only is it super easy apart from a couple of chapters, there's just nothing more to talk about in regards to Ninja Gaiden 4. The only thing new I had to discuss is when the DLC comes out, the Two Masters DLC. And even then, like, the longer I hold on to that walkthrough and the footage I got, the more I kind of don't want to bother releasing it. Because even if I cut out all of the excess footage and things where I'm not fighting and I made it to more of a music video style of things, it's still taking a long time to get through all that and to discuss what's happening and even to talk about other things. And I would have left it on its own with just the raw gameplay and no music, no commentary, or I would have put music over the back, but you can still hear the gameplay slightly. It's just ruined because of the fact that it's on my PlayStation and I still can't figure out what's wrong with the audio offset on my console to my computer. But now I'm pretty much exclusively being like, okay, everything from now on when it comes to recording gameplay footage, it's going to be on my PC because I don't have to worry about that problem anymore. It's all taken care of. So I think, now that I think about it, a lot of the information I've given is a little bit out of date, and I'm probably going to end up scrapping my Master Ninja S rank walkthrough, but I definitely have done it. Not that I need to prove anything, or not that it's all that impressive considering what I'm doing right now, or what there still is to do that I want to try. I was just very proud of it, and I was looking forward to showing it off, but yeah, it makes it a lot easier knowing that it wasn't very difficult to do, and there was only a couple of chapters where I had a hard time getting it done. But in any case, I can carry on talking about all these other topics that I've got written down. They'll start to get more about games later on, but there's just a few, or a couple, I guess, pretty spicy topics that I just wanted to bring up just out of nowhere to help kill time. But when you get out of this area here, this decontamination chamber, there we go, there's the words, you've got two ways you can go. You can left or right, but right's the way to go. And again, I don't know what the deal is in terms of enemies that spawn in or despawn when you go certain routes, but there's going to be a stalker with its legs cut off, a lurker, there's going to be a spitter out here, and a slasher. And so what you want to do, if you want to find everything, is to go to the left, because there'll be a power node. You want to go to the left first, and if you go fast enough, there'll be something in front of you. I think it's a slasher, a black slasher. And then when you look behind you, there'll be a black spitter, and there'll be a bunch of other necromorphs coming for you as well, including a pregnant, I think. Oh, there's a pregnant right in front of you. So if you don't mind spending this ammo for the sake of a power node, then great. But if you don't want to fight everything that comes for you, that you're going to see right here, then I'd recommend just focusing on going to the right only and looking behind you for the odd necromorph that might spawn in. Because at least then you'll save plenty of ammo and potentially health. And if you don't really need the power node, then fine. But I do, or at least I feel like I do, just because I'm going to get Force Gun near the end of Chapter 11, just so I can make the elevator sequence a lot easier. I can make all of Chapter 12 a lot easier. And there's several sections in Chapters 13, 14 and 15 I can just skip by using the Force Gun. But because there's quite a bit to talk about when it comes to strategy and how I move about the level in Chapter 14 and 15 and a little bit of 13, I'm not going to have as much time as I would have thought to talk about these other things. Sorry. After my lunch, some of it must have gone down the wrong hole. But anyway, I believe last time, in the last video, I was talking about, the whole thing about not giving a fuck what people think about you, not giving a fuck about what society thinks of you, but also understanding that just because you don't care what you look like, deep down you kind of do, and a lot of other people aren't necessarily against what you want to do for yourself or how you want to appear or whatever. Like if you want to be who you are, if you want to do what you do, a lot of the times people don't really give a shit, so you need to just, be mindful about how other people might see you, in the sense that if you continue pissing off enough people, they will inevitably turn on you, and if you won't listen to them and you won't try to act peacefully and just try to keep things to yourself, because you have to understand that what you might be interested in or what you might try to preach is some sort of thing that you love, might not always appeal to everyone else. So sorry about that, I got something in my throat there. But yeah, just, and as I was saying before, all sorts of things that are pushed, all sorts of things that are idealized. You know, when you get too public about it and it's no longer being kept, you know, to yourself, it's no longer being kept within the confines of your community. You know, you invite a lot of calamity and chaos, people with conflicting ideas. Sometimes it's best just to leave them be, or to respect the fact that people don't believe in what you believe in. And as far as what I believe in and all that, and this definitely is a weird game to be bringing it up in, but sorry about that. There's something I have to preface that a lot of people have a hard time understanding is, well, it's a lot of to do with the fact that it's got two parts to it. The first one, which is something I think I've already brought up before in a different video, which is the whole idea of racism. Because there are lots of people from different cultures and such that I do not approve of. And it's not that I don't approve of a person just because of the colour of their skin or what country they're from. Of course I don't, you know, because we're all just people at the end of the day. It doesn't matter what we look like. You know, how's that any different from someone of the same country and race dressing slightly differently, you know? How's it any different? No, it's all about ideology. It's all about culture and belief. See, my biggest problem, especially when it comes to, say, like Middle Eastern countries, a lot of Middle Eastern, Muslim, Arabian countries, they have certain practices, beliefs, religious beliefs and ideals that would actively harm my way of looking at the world. It would harm members of my family, especially when it comes to the females, like mothers, aunts, sisters, because I got all that. And when I think about what sort of agendas and what sort of culture gets brought with these Muslim people when they come into certain first world countries or just any other country in general, especially in Europe right now especially, and in America partially as well, that it's not only do they believe in a very self-destructive culture that not only conflicts with a different race and group of people, but it encourages them to actively exploit, manipulate, and do horrible, horrible things to people like mine and people that came from the same sort of lineage as mine, and that's where I have the problem. The problem is that they may have grown up with these beliefs, but they still carry them on, and they still carry them wherever they go. They don't respect other people's cultures in other countries. They go in with their own, knowing that they can get away with it because it's, you know, it's not proper to criticize their culture. It's not proper to judge them for what they do in our own country when, you know, they're a big risk. And even though that is happening everywhere pretty much, like even here in Australia and even back in New Zealand especially, you know, New Zealand is a very liberal. Ultimately, why it's such a concern for me is because I know inevitably that's probably what will end up happening to the down under, you know, to the oceanic countries like Australia and New Zealand. I know it'll probably happen to us. And if it doesn't, I'll be very surprised. But in a twisted sense of irony, I'm kind of hoping that something does happen, like something significant that's happening in America and Europe right now also happens in our countries, just because I want people to come back to me and I look at them and I go, I fucking told you it would happen. You didn't believe me because it sounded awful, or it sounds like I'm a bad person that doesn't approve of a human being because of blah blah blah. It's like, no, the moment they do what they do to you, to your family, to your friends, they stop being human. They should stop being human in your eyes. Or you just accept that they're a completely different people, and in a lot of ways an evil people, and that they don't have the same kindness or fondness for your culture as you have for theirs. So sometimes you don't have to show respect to them, because why would you show respect to a group of people that have very self-destructive and very dangerous ideas? Not dangerous as in it can manipulate you into doing horrible things, but in such a way where their own people are already bred in environments where this is encouraged. Everyone else is just laughing, thinking that it's like no big deal, or they don't quite understand what's going on. But, you know, they never understand until it's too late. And that brings me to the second part of all this, you know, where it's not just about, you know, you don't have to hate people because they're from different skin color or from a different country. That's actual racism for me. It's about hating cultures. I hate the culture they're a part of, not where they're from or, you know, what their skin color is, of course not. But that leads to the next thing too, and that's on an even more sensitive topic, which I'll touch on just after this. As soon as you come up here and you do your store and your bench checks and all that, when you try to go back out to the tram, you will face a couple of black necromorph slashes and some little leeches. They'll leech themselves onto their limbs, and it can do a lot of damage before they get taken off, because they just spare a shot, and these things are already super strong, so they don't need to be more strong. Take them out quickly as you can. And then there'll be a few more of these little bug things that come crawling out of the train, but it's more or less how difficult it gets for a little while. And what I was going to discuss in the second part behind racism and hating culture and not the race themselves, it's the fact that I do not approve of transgenderism. I don't. And it's not so much that I deny people the ability, you know, as humans, because they are human beings, and therefore on some base level I do care about them, even if we have conflicting opinions, conflicting ideologies. They're still human beings, and they're trying to do what makes them happy, and I can respect that, but I don't have to like them. It's more so the practice that they go through that I don't approve of, and I feel bad for them. I do. Because me disapproving of transgender people isn't because of them being people, or I don't think they should die, I don't think they should be put in camps or whatever, but at the same time, oh, by the way, I just freeze the black necromorph before I go into the train, and with a bit of luck, all these leeches can't get onto you for some reason. It's a bit of a bug, but I just stomp them just in case. It's a pretty clever way. I actually forgot I did this. But as I was saying before, the reason why I don't approve of the practice of like transitioning and transgenderism and all that is, well, because it's so self-destructive. Imagine this. There are people that feel so bad about their lives, people that don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, and they desperately want to belong to a group of people, or they feel like they've been born in the wrong body, because if they're a man that has feminine hobbies or a woman that has masculine hobbies, they feel like they need to change their entire gender and completely warp and disrupt their own genetics in order to fit in. But what's even worse is that there are people, like, if it's doctors, I understand, because they directly benefit from shit like this, so of course they're going to encourage it, because the surgery for transitioning is very, very expensive, and there's a lot of money to be had, especially from people that are so mentally ill that they think this is what's going to save their lives. But if anything, you know, look at the suicide rates for transgender people. It's probably way higher than regular men. Like, no one wants to talk about men's suicide rates, but, you know, people aren't even aware remotely that transgender people kill themselves, and as frequently as they do. They do. But it always happens after transgender procedures happen, because they realise it's too late. And they cover up everyone's complaints about it. They're like, oh yeah, I made a mistake in transitioning, it's awful for me, blah, blah, blah. And everyone who put them through the surgery, or everyone who encouraged them, try to cover it up. But I think what's probably worse is the fact that there are people who advocate so much for people to have freedom of autonomy over their own body, that they believe in that self-destructive idea of being transgender, that they will encourage people to transition. Like, there will be people that support it and support the surgery, not realizing what it would do to their body, but because they don't want to see, like, oh no, I don't approve of this, they don't want to be seen as the bad guy. It's like, you're actively convincing them or encouraging them to ruin their own bodies. Like, depending on which type of transition they want, they won't be having kids. If they do have kids, they'll be all deformed and fucked up. Because let's be honest, most people, if they could, would rather a baby be healthy and not deformed. It takes a really strong will to have a deformed baby and still love them. Like, you can still love them and abort them, or just straight up get rid of them or put them somewhere else, but yeah, it's a tough one. But ultimately, I don't approve of transgenderism because doctors and government officials completely benefit from this because, well, what do? The doctors get money from the surgery procedures and everything, and it's super easy for them. And the government benefits off of it because a lot of people are clearly unwell, and the government can therefore manipulate them a lot more easily. I mean, why else do you think they push all this stuff? And I was very close to getting killed there. Be very careful that multiple cysts can pop up, and have your stasis ready on hand. There's a station nearby, so it's all good. And yeah, that's what it really boils down to. Like, I respect these people, and I understand that they're struggling, and they're unwell, and they're unhappy, and they think this is what's going to save them. But here's my advice to anyone who ever thinks about that, or anyone thinks that I'm a bastard for thinking like this. If there is something you feel is wrong with you, if you feel like you're into things that, unless they're illegal or they're hurting other people, don't worry about it. Because if they're not hurting other people, and it's only inconveniencing them because they don't like the way you perceive it, fuck them, Like, if you believe in the idea that being a transgender is going to help you, don't give a fuck about what I say. You don't have to give a fuck, and you don't have to take it on board and change your life around because of it. Just listen to what I'm saying and consider it. Consider the consequences, the worst consequences of doing this procedure, and if you do, and you think you can live with them if they happen to you, then do them. But if you can't live with the idea that you may end up even unhappier than you already are, then don't do it. Instead, look for self-love. Figure out what it is about... if there's just general advice for anybody. If there's something going on in your life, or a lot of things going on in your life, and you're not happy and you're sad, and you say you don't know what it is, bullshit. You do know what it is. Because if you don't know what the problem is in your life that's ruining it, because if your life is slowly getting ruined and you don't know what it is in your life that is making you upset, 99% of the time, it is your fault. It may not be something you caused directly to happen or was intended, but it is your fault. In fact, a lot of the times, things that go wrong are your fault. By the way, step out onto that elevator quickly and then back up. Because then you'll get one of the leapers coming out of the wall there, and if you stand right here, they have a hard time trying to leap to you, so they'll have to stand up on the bridge that you're on, either behind you or in front of you, and they're really easy to track. So he's going to go in the vent there, and he's not going to pop out of a vent until we go near somewhere else. I'm guessing he'll come out of there, but he'll probably appear behind us. So just keep your aim up, get your stasis ready. There he is. So he may not pop in the same place, but these things are very intelligent, and the moment you try to ride that lift down, one more will come out, and it'll come out down on the bottom floor there, right where I'm looking. And then a third one will appear right above you in a vent. So down at the ground, hit it with stasis, take it out quickly, and as soon as you do, you need to look straight up. Other necromorphs will be getting zapped by that thing, so you need to just stay in an area where you can't get jumped on, just like that. And that freaked me the fuck out. I remember seeing that when I was playing the game itself, and I freaked the fuck out when I saw it. It looked like a jump scare out of a horror movie. So, in any case, yeah, my ultimate problem with the whole transgender thing is that it's born... No one who is of sound mind actually wants to do it. These are people that are deeply unwell, deeply unhappy with themselves, and they feel like this is the only thing that they can do to better fit the body that they've been given, when that's not true at all. They're deeply unwell, they're confused, and they need to figure out what the problem is. And what is the root of a lot of problems? The root of a lot of problems comes down to the fact that people aren't willing to admit that it is their fault, or things that are happening in life is their fault. It's not to say that it can't be somebody else's fault, but isn't it so hard to look back on a situation and be like, yes, this thing that happened to me that was bad, this was my fault. I did this to myself, whether I wanted to or not, I did this to myself. It's so hard to admit, isn't it? So hard. And, they have my sympathies, they really do. But, just take several things, for example. For me and my own personal self, when things started getting low for me in multiple times, I don't think I've ever been depressed. It could be my Asperger's, but at the same time, I've been very sad in my life several times. I start getting bad habits, so I start thinking negatively of the world. That could be a sign of depression, but at the same time, I've seen what people that are depressed really look like when they're at their lowest, and I've never been that low. I've never been so low as to think that maybe I should just kill myself. By the way, that box has little leeches in them, so pick it up, drop it down gently, and then stomp on it. So it's going to be a little bit of a workaround with this. I'm going to go ahead and sell some stuff at a shop or store some stuff away in the safe. And then I'm going to come back and pick up some of these items I can't collect. So while this is a bit of a slow moment here, I got to preface as well that, let's say me, for example. At numerous times in my life, I'm like, okay, I feel kind of lost, I feel kind of empty, what do I have to do? It's like, okay, well, what's the first problem? Well, I think I'm a bit too fat. So what do I do? Well, I need to start eating better. I need to stop drinking. I need to drink more water and maybe even tea, but less of everything else. I can still have the odd treat here and there, but I can't make a habit of getting used to it. I need to stop eating takeaways. I need to start eating better. I need to learn how to cook better. I need to get into a good, healthy sort of like routine that's not difficult to maintain or get used to. And if I really need to, I need to join a gym. And yeah, all of that I'm looking at improving little by little. Sometimes I relapse, but with everything that's going on right now with this YouTube channel and getting it all set up, I feel really good. And I'm filling in a lot of my time with games, of course, but I'm also making good use of it. I feel really, really good. And I think I'm relatively happy. I want to get my book out. That'll make me happy too. It'd be a good way to express sort of what I think the ideal humanitarian value should be. And what else is there? Lack of money. Well, in order to be good with money, I just need to cut out buying crap games, and I also need to stop buying so much junk that I don't need to worry about. I need to think carefully about the ramifications of what I buy, treat every little expense as potentially harmful, but don't live my life so cautiously that I never get to have any fun. Do I still not have enough money? Well, then it's clear I need to find a new job, like one that pays well, but one that I need to start off slow in so I don't get pushed away immediately because they're put off by my attitude of wanting to be going for the money. But of course, I need to also have something that I'm passionate about, not just something that I end up hating and secretly wish I could go back to, where the money that I'm getting isn't worth it because it's costing my soul, sort of thing. I'm still working on that too. So ultimately what it comes down to is, why are you unhappy in your life? If you can't answer that, it's your fault. And when it's your fault, you need to look inward and think, what is it about myself that I'm unhappy with? And if you wanted to take the stance of someone who wants to go trans, be like, I feel like I'm born in the wrong body. Well, why do you feel like you're born in the wrong body? It's like, well, I find myself having thoughts and interests in things that aren't typical of my gender. Like, okay, so do you like doing those things? Yes. Well, save yourself the money, accept and learn to love the fact that, you are a guy who's into girl things, or you're a girl who's into guy things. Because, take it from me, this is something I learned all the way back in college, which is basically high school for New Zealand and Australia and all that. Not the same curriculum and academic level, but, what I found is that the less friends you have, the more valuable each of your friends are. So, there's several billion people on the planet, and in most people's cases, when it comes to living in cities and first world countries, there are thousands of people you pass by every day that could potentially be someone that you know or get to know. But when you really break down just how little they matter to you in your life in the grand scheme of things, think about the people that are already around you. Think about how much they mean to you and what you would do for them. Put more value on them if you don't realize it already. What you need to understand is that when you have too much of something in your life, it can lead to disaster. If you feel like you don't get accepted, just understand that a lot of the world wouldn't accept you regardless, and if you became trans, then people would reject you even more, including your own friends and family, whether they supported it or not. They want you to be happy, and if this is what makes you happy, then great, but it freaks them the fuck out, and they will never tell you that. They will never have the heart to tell you that, but I will. because I do care on some level. So just consider this. Just accept who you are in your own skin, whether you're a boy or a girl, whatever you want to do with your life, whatever interest you have. Don't let it hold you back. Just be happy with who you are right now, and if there is anything you're unhappy with in your life, start making a change. Write down what it is. Accept that a big part of it is probably your fault, that you feel the way that you do, but don't beat yourself up for it. Just use it as an excuse to be like, I'm the reason this is a problem, and now I'm the reason it's going to be a solution, that I'm going to fix it. If you want to compare it to a story or a narrative, it's a lot like character development, you know? Like, does everyone appreciate a good character where they're in a story for a very long time or in a long-running story, and every time there's a new arc or a new part of the story, they always had to have some sort of struggle, some sort of new development to their character which further improves who they are as a person? It's sort of like that. Everyone has their arcs. I mean, me in primary, it was just me kind of coming to terms with my Asperger's, realising I'm different from everybody else. For intermediate, it was navigating the early life as a preteen and dealing with friends, but in a way where we're all so much more physically capable now, especially guys, and just dealing with some of the more sensitive subjects that you're going to come across in life. As a teenager in college, it's all about dealing with social pressure and, the whole say no to drugs and safe sex and all that other nonsense here and there. And then, of course, as a young adult, it's about finding where you're going to go in life, what you want out of your life, what you're going to make a career or a job out of, and navigating that. And then as an adult, which I'm in right now, just, before getting to midlife stages, just trying to figure out where you're going to go and how you're going to build yourself up. It's a lot easier for a guy to do this because a guy's got to struggle pretty early on to make his value in the world, whereas, this has been said a million times. A woman's value is in her earlier years, where she's still young, fertile, and pretty, and reasonably innocent. Though these days it's not really the case, is it? And for a man, it takes him a very long time to get any sort of recognition from anybody, because it takes him a long time to build up his wealth. But that's also very rewarding if it works out in the end, because it feels like it's been worth it. Because a man just does enjoy to struggle. A man does enjoy a challenge. He loves to overcome things and fix things. It's just part of who it is. Part of how it is and who they are. And that's what I've enjoyed too. I enjoy this challenge. But I often find that there's not enough time for anything else. So what do? Well, I probably need more money so I have the time. But in order to get more money, I need to sacrifice more time. We're all in a very dangerous situation, and my life is far from perfect, but I'd be lying if I said it wasn't more privileged than most other people's lives. I've had very good family. Family's been very good to me, very generous. But the best I can do to be humble is to not let it get to me, and to appreciate what I have and know that any day it could get taken away. And instead of trying to deflect and being like, no, I'm actually, one of you guys, I'm, not so well off. It's like, no, I am. People have got a lot worse than I do. But everyone has their struggles regardless of how well off they are. The whole trans issue is definitely a tough one to talk about, just because everyone gets up in their feelings about it. But ultimately you have to understand, I don't hate these people because they are people and they are just like us, aside from the obvious. But what I despise is the fact that they completely alter their own bodies instead of being comfortable in their own skin and who they are. And if there is a problem that they're not happy with, they're not making active changes, they're deflecting the blame from themselves onto how they were born, and they're trying to remedy that problem by, cutting their bodies apart, opening themselves up, inserting things into their bodies that doesn't belong, and forcefully changing their gender, and completely distorting a lot of other parts of their body, and suddenly what goes from a reasonably healthy body turns into a disgusting amorphous mess of something else. And that's why I hate transgenderism, really. Just because it becomes something that's propped up as beautiful and empowering, and in reality all it does is disfigure and destroy everything. Destroy everything it touches, and it's poisonous, and further brought on by all the governments and all the other people that encourage it, because they don't want to be seen as bad people that discourage a person's choice and autonomy of their body. But no, we don't know everything, and so sometimes we have to be told what to think. And whereas I'm pretty open to hearing what other people have to say, and I'm very patient, and I do want to know what other people have to say because I want their perspective. I want to know what they think. I want to understand their mind. But a lot of other people don't want to understand my mind. A lot of people don't want to understand the mind of an awful person, like a serial killer or a rapist or something. People are too afraid to stare into the abyss of an idea that they know about, but don't ever dare want to, contemplate the idea that they could enjoy it or that they could agree with it. People, for fear of their own, if people believe in their own ideology as strongly as they do, then they would never get afraid of listening to someone else. If you already believe in the ideology that you do, and you're okay to listen to what other people have to say and hear them out, then that's a sign of someone who is strong and confident in what they believe in. But for all these other people that harp on about all these different ideologies, but they don't like the idea of you challenging them, that means they're not confident in the stability of their idea. People that bitch and moan to you about being against transgenderism or against the culture or race of some other place because of what they practice and preach, not for how they look, then those are stupid people who are ignorant, who lack nuance, and they are people who don't deserve your time. And not only do they not deserve your time, but they don't deserve your sympathy either. Because you're willing to hear them out in a calm and collected manner, but here they are getting fucking fist up ass, all the way up to the elbow, just ready to throw hands, ready to fight you the moment you even come up with an idea that threatens their worldview. So just make your way down this side here, because there's going to be more light poles for you to shoot away. And while one isn't an instant kill, especially if you don't have the telekinesis upgrades, you can use these babies and exploit them as explosives to catch these things off guard and to blow them up. But otherwise it's not that hard of a section. And we're coming pretty close to the end of this second save as well. And I know I've been talking about the whole topic like that for the whole video, but I think it's a really important one to talk about as well. Like, it gives you a bit more insight into who I am and sort of what I believe in, that I'm more than able to tolerate just about any idea, but when that idea starts threatening what I love and what I care about, whether it's like a hobby or an ideology or a family or a friend, when I think what I love and what I believe in won't survive in an environment run by these people with their cultures forced on everybody else, that's when I start getting a problem, and that's when I have to start talking back. I don't care what it costs me, I don't care who's against me, whether it's another friend or family who believes in something different, because what doesn't change is the fact that while I don't agree with all my family on a lot of things, or all my friends on a lot of things, in fact, I'd say most of my friends and family, if you had to talk in American politics or for anything in the world, if you had to put me into the camp of either conservative, centralist, or liberal, I'm definitely more like centrist conservative, and a lot of my family are around centrist liberal. But the difference between me and them is that they may come to hate me for an idea, or they may stand feverishly against me and my ideas, but I will never hold their ideas against them. I will always respect them and I will always love them, because they're the most important people in my family. But I'm showing them, hey, we have completely different ideologies, but we don't have to let it get in the way of us loving each other, because we still do. So why pretend like we don't, And it's a bit of a heavy way to end this, but just approaching those kinds of situations calmly, like never acting like an asshole about it, like you see some podcasters do when they're talking about their ideologies. If you just look at them and you let them punch themselves out, you let them speak passionately. And a classic trick I like to do is to talk about something and do it calmly, but then the moment they interrupt me, I let them interrupt me. But then as soon as it's over, and if they interrupt me, I just kind of like stop talking and I listen to them, and I just kind of look at them blankly, like I'm still paying attention, but I just don't look interested at all. I appear stoic, I appear calm, and then as soon as they stop talking, and at that point they know I'm waiting for them to stop talking, and then I start talking again, I start at the very beginning of my point or my sentence. So I punish them for interrupting me by repeating my entire point all over again, as a way of saying like, hey, don't interrupt me again. And even if they keep on interrupting me, I have the patience and the awareness to still keep doing it several times over. And usually what happens is they end up getting too frustrated to carry on. And that's the thing, you need to have confidence in your opinions. You need to have confidence in your beliefs. Like, people can think that I'm joking because I'm trying to be edgy, or people can think I'm joking because, I'm a bad person. But when I speak confidently and I don't act like an asshole, and because again, for a lot of people, it's about the way you speak, not what you say. People will believe anything you say as long as you speak about it in a calm and collective manner, because they know at that point that you truly believe in what you're saying. And it's not about you hating people, it's about you still loving people and caring about them, but you just don't like the way they go about trying to change their lives because you think they're being very self-destructive. And I do think they're being very self-destructive. But while there is more to that, I don't think it needs to be said anymore. And so going forward from this point on, for the rest of the walkthrough, I'm going to leave behind those hot topics, and instead I'm going to be talking about game-related stuff for once. And that'll be for the final save in the last part. Although, to be fair, the last part of this game, there's not going to be any sort of off-topic discussions. It'll be all strategy. But for this next save here, all the way up to my third and final save, for the next hour, it will be about games with the occasional tangent. So again, I'm sorry if I put you off with my discussions, but these topics all mean a lot to me, not in terms of solidifying an identity, but just letting you know what sort of person I am, and that I believe in things that I do for a reason, not for any ill intent, but simply because it's more of a sense of self-preservation, or preservation for the values that I hold in my family and friends and my worldview. But I don't hold it against anybody else until it starts actively and directly affecting what I do and what I believe in and who I love. But that's the end of that. Sorry for the extended run there. You take care now.